Hey, so this is sort of a bold title, especially for somebody who like isn't, like say you look at your Neil Strausses and your mysteries and your horrible Andrew Tates and your, you look at all these people who are like, this is how you get girls and each of them probably has a high body count to their name, and I think body count is a great word for it because it should be a body count to a man's name, and for a woman's name, it's not shouldn't be body count. It should be like I don't know hit count. um, but because it's like how many people has this person affected in a really negative way? Well, probably a lot. It's like so. It may seem sort of bold for me to make something called "How to Be Attractive," but I think I've kind of like, if not figured out a rubric, I think I've at least sort of laid out or have laid out a few metrics that should be helpful in kind of like. Here's the thing: if you rate yourself on these metrics and you're rating highly in all of them, and I can explain sort of how deeply they go, but if you are rating highly in all of them, then you should probably already have a good chance of getting some kind of interest and actually reciprocating that interest in a way that is steady and stable enough that something will happen. And I'm not the person suggesting to sleep with people. I'm actually suggesting that sleeping with people is a hugely dramatic thing to do, and that you shouldn't be doing it unless you are essentially hoping, or at least you would be okay with the sometimes consequences of that, and those being that essentially you should see the person you're sleeping with as someone you'd want to spend quite a lot of time with. And I think a lot of people don't. But that's fine. But I am suggesting that you should. So if you take this in a way where you would like use somebody or something, then that's not the spirit that it was given in. Yes, it's a preposition at the end of the phrase. Oh well. Okay. So these metrics are kind of simple, and I'm glad to have come about them because man, I think it's just if you can really simplify it into these quadrants, basically, then you're pretty clear about what you might need to essentially be attractive to a woman. I don't know about to a man, or wait, to a man. Yeah, no, I don't know about to a man. I think if I were to give you my advice being attractive to a man, like be a good person and be physically attractive, as simple as that sounds. Okay, so here they are. It's 7 words, it's 4 concepts. They are good body, good mind, sound practices, and focus, with focus but not the period underlined. Good body, good mind, sound practices, and focus, with focus but not the period underlined. Good body kind of speaks for itself. And I'm gonna go down this list and it's not necessarily I mean it's interactive because you could interact with it, but we let's make it interactive in that I'm interacting with it. So good body, good mind, sound practices, and that one includes a lot that you might not really think of, at least as I see it. And I think really it does. And then focus. And so I think I score more highly on some of these than others in like now. So good body. What would I rate myself? I'd rate myself a 7. Okay. So what does body involve? Body involves, or what does it include? Body includes looks, basic physical health, strength, something like that. Looks, basic physical health, strength. You could say grooming slash hygiene, but that sort of goes along with looks and also maybe physical health or strength in some regard. In fact, let's just keep it to the well, grooming slash hygiene. And then you could just say clothes and stuff, but actually, I guess well, no, clothes would probably be more good mind or sound practices because it's more revealing of what your kind of aesthetic tastes are, or what you're thinking, depending on what you're wearing. Like if you wear a tie dye shirt, that says a lot, but I don't think it's necessarily a good body thing as much as a sound mind or a good practices one, or a focus one, and it sort of reveals your focus. But so why do I get a 7, and what things could I improve? And this is probably the most helpful part of it. Well, I get a 7 because oh, hold on. Because because why? Because I have broken tooth. Um otherwise otherwise tough teeth, as in tough to well, otherwise challenging teeth. And not like incredibly challenging, but somewhat challenging, definitely. So those are two points to consider. Um, questionable hygiene. Well, you know what? I don't questionable. It's not specific. It's got a lot of connotations. It's kind of funny. How about inconsistent? Inconsistent slash yeah, maybe questionable. Like it's so funny. It's actually like really hilarious, but still. Okay. And what else? But I think I am slim slash fit, and I think I am tall enough, and good looks enough. I think that it varies based on the day, but I'll just leave it at good looks. I basically, and I think that actually has a lot to do with emotional stuff. So I'd say if somebody's looking to like look better, I would suggest, and it's like, oh Matt, well you may not look good at a certain angle, or in this stream, or in any, well I don't know, but basically it's like, well okay, I think generally like there's some level of like attractiveness there. And I'd say if you're looking to looks max, so called, then you probably want to look into letting go emotionally. And actually, I would suggest letting go on your appearance, actually. So, like, could I let go of or what is my now feeling about how I look? And then just you'd let the emotions come up, and then you'd ask some self inquiry questions to let go, or, in the vein of letting go of that, maybe. I would recommend checking it out, the Sedona Method book. It is a really good book to help you out in all regards, especially, well, yeah, so many things, and looks could be included there. But yeah, I'd recommend that for help with that. As for the teeth thing, it's not that complicated. I just have to have the money. I'll sort of write this down: money slash will to change those. Money slash will slash hygiene grooming to deal with the otherwise challenging teeth, but broken tooth money slash will. Questionable hygiene, same hygiene slash grooming, and that's easy. Or hygiene grooming in parentheses. Slim fit, well, I think it's good. It could get better. I'll do push-ups, sit-ups, push-ups, sit-ups. Good. Okay. Tall enough. Yeah, I mean, okay. And then good looks. I'll put the Sedona method. That should help with that. And so good body, I think I could raise it to a 9. I think I'm gonna do 7 space and then parenthesis plus 9 end parenthesis. And that should be good enough. So there you go. Like I've got a whole quadrant. And I do think it's like a 7 to a plus 9. Like basically, I think without somebody like really knowing anything that they might take issue with otherwise, if they just like see me walking into the room, I've gotten fairly good responses from a decent variety of women, and actually like positive responses from fairly attractive women. So I think it's not, maybe it's not necessarily universal, but I can I can think of many little moments where, or yeah, at least some where it's like, oh wow, like if I went up and gave this girl the George Costanza about like, I'm X, Y, and I'm living with my parents, then oh, sorry about that. Oh, did you? Good. Well, what did that block it? If I gave her the George Costanza, then she'd probably run away screaming. But there was a very cute girl at Barnes and Noble. I don't know if she still works there, but she worked there for a little while, and like, I think I saw her at the register like 2 or 3 times at least, and, like, one of the times, like, it seemed like she was giving me, like, kinda fucking crazy signals, actually, but the sad thing was, it was like, well, it basically it's like if I went up with quadrant 1 in place, good body, like, essentially, like, I think or even, like, good body probably represents vibes as well, although that may go into mind. um, Vibes, let's do vibes, yeah. And the Sedona method for that one as well. But good body represents vibes as well, I think. Um, just because it's more of a tangible thing. And so I think I probably had some vibes going on, some like good looks or I think essentially I was matching enough things plus the grooming, like whatever day it was. And essentially, like, I think my hair like probably just looked good enough, etc. And so like she actually like I looked over because like I was next person in line or something, and like she was behind the register and she was kind of like staring at me. I would say actually it might be like the most definitive or definite version I've ever seen of someone giving me what Neil Strauss refers to as the doggy dinner bowl look, which sounds super fucking degrading, and it probably like kind of really is, but it's a really actually evocative term for that kind of look. It's like it's sort of like, I don't know. I think the term kind of speaks for itself, but um in whatever really maybe demeaning way it does, but possible that again, I think it's an evocative term, so but I'm very like, if somebody like, I'm no fan of the word bitch. I'm like, or bitches plural usually, actually, or like I'm gonna go get a bitch or something. I'm no fan of like sort of conceptualizing the general woman as quote bitch unquote. And I think it's horrific that Beyonce and those other fucking people in the media and the propaganda industry have, well, I think they kind of semi successfully, but semi unsuccessfully tried to get women to call each other the B word, like they already got like certain ethnicities to call themselves like racial slurs. I think even like white people probably refer to each other as crackers sometimes, just like probably more in a funny way there, I don't think they ever really made it happen with bitch, actually, and I'm kind of glad about that. Like I think I'll give women a lot of points for that. I don't think they quite cracked through with like women actually calling each other bitch. So I mean, it does happen, I think, but a lot of the times I think it's like guys that identify as gay calling them that, or like them speaking kind of like in a sort of heightened tone of comedy, but like, I think they're basically, that's one place where I think women haven't been sort of successfully propagandized to en masse, and that's really good to see. Maybe we can think of some other ones. I'm not trying to sound misogynist here. I really think that's like because there are plenty of fucking things that guys fall into that they're propagandized to about. So, I think it's a huge fucking win for women not to have just unilaterally called each other bitch at this point. But Yeah, but like 7, and I think I could go to 9. That may include like clothing and stuff. Again, I think clothing might fit into other stuff as well, but I think that's pretty good. Okay, so good body 7. That's what I'd probably say. Good mind. I put an 8 here. Um, I think I get obsessive compulsive, and the Sedona method, the 7 habits. Oh wait, is that 7? Oh, it's 7. Yeah, yeah. Sedona method, the 7 habits. I think that should help with obsessive compulsiveness. But yeah, or whatever. Um, what else about good mind? I tend to be defeatist, so Tony Robbins. And that might be it, because I think a lot fits into focus. And I mean, I guess I could put like the positives. It might be, I mean, sort of the 8 kind of speaks for itself in terms of positives. But yeah, I'm not sure I want to like go. I'm not sure I really want to enumerate uh, 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 for one reason, because then like once you sort of name something, then it's like, oh, like or somebody called me cool. Like, oh, now how do I continue to fit that characterization? Somebody said I was a nice person. Nice is a little easier because nice has a lot less to do, I think, with how people might think of it. Whereas like cool, it's kind of like you're shooting a basketball or something, and it might go through or it might not. But like you yourself might judge like that. Oh, that went well. That didn't. In terms of cool, but you can always kind of be nice. You can always like be honest, and actually, that's pretty good because, as I said elsewhere, it's kind of like being good and honest and then feeling okay. Like those are sort of the qualities of success, perhaps. Like being good and honest and feeling okay. Everything else it's kind of up to the wind, and or maybe not up to the wind, but it's often so tied into other systems that are just so horrible and all this stuff. But if you're good and honest, or if you're honest and good, and then if you are feeling okay, then you're pretty successful, no matter what your scenario is. Um, I guess you could say emotional trouble for a good mind. Now that's kind of tough because emotional stuff fits also into body in terms of physical tension and a lot of stuff. But emotional stuff, I think, is a big part of it, and actually, like, what stable. So the cure for that emotional trouble is stable. Like how do you achieve stability? Well, one thing you could ask yourself, actually, I think this is a fairly good question, is, well, or rather, just you give yourself permission to play outside of the realm of pain and pleasure. That may sound sort of random, but you give yourself permission to play outside of the realm of pain and pleasure. As in, you're not really referring to the evil dichotomy of pain and pleasure that so many people seem to either explicitly sometimes or more implicitly often enough refer to. So, like, but rather it's more truth and falsity, and that it helps you to be kind of more objective in general anyway and strategic. Might get into some like Spock ideas or like, oh, you're a Vulcan, you're just suppressing your emotions. And I'm not suggesting to do that, um, but at the same time, I think it might be sort of a powerful way to let go if you are saying I am giving myself permission to play outside of the realm of pain and pleasure here today. It is a good way to, maybe it is a good way to let go, because it's kind of saying like, well, I'm letting go of giving much regard to the whole idea of pain and pleasure. And if I'm letting go of that, then I'm probably not like holding on or resisting so much anymore, because it's like I'm not even really concerned about it. And if you can do that, then I think you're actually well on the way to basically being Don Draper in terms of how fucking cool you are. So, like, and there's a great scene actually. I can give you a scene where Don is driving with one of his sort of many mistresses. I'm not saying Don's a great guy, although I think like I love his characterization. I think as for as deep of a character as he is, he's probably unrealistically shitty in terms of being a womanizer. But in any case, Don's like a really wise man, and he's kind of a beautiful man. I love Don, but he is driving with one of his mistresses or just a woman that he like picked up, or I'm not even sure if this might have been the only time he knew her or like do her. What do you mean, Matt knew her? But this might have been the only time he actually went out with this woman, at least in the show. But she's driving the car, and like he's like drunk as fucking shit, and they're driving down this beautiful moonlit lane, and it might be like a similar moonlit lane or the same one to the one that he drives on, like with this couple that he then takes to a motel, and then they kind of fucking rob him or whatever they do. But he's just going down this beautiful, like sort of maybe upstate New Yorky or just sort of exterior of the city, New York, kind of tree laden lane in the darkness, moonlight, and it's darker than it's blacker than the night on a moonless night. Like Agent Dale Cooper's coffee. But yeah, so the woman though, she's sitting there and she's kind of having a blast. I think she's probably pretty drunk too, and she's kind of laughing and saying like, oh, like I feel like so excited, or she says like I feel thrilled or something. And then the camera goes over to Don. He's just there behind the wheel, and he's like his eyes are like totally kind of almost glazed over, and he's like, I don't feel anything at all. But he says it in a way where he like really likes it, I think. Anyway, oh, anyone who might be here, I'm not saying anyone would be, but anyone who might be here commenting, I'm not looking at the like comments or whatever right now, but yeah, so that wouldn't necessarily like that's probably maybe more of a suppression aspect, but emotional stability. Don Draper, one thing about how cool he is that he's totally emotionally stable, or at least he comes off that way. Like you see him. Apparently, John Hamm had auditioned for the show with the scene in. I guess there's a scene in the first episode of Mad Men where Don is in his office and he's putting on his suit, or he's kind of like buttoning up his his sleeves, and just kind of like getting his shit back together or something, or whatever. And like Don's whole thing is just being this, he's like the most, like he is totally fucking in, he's the most controlled guy in the room, and that could be on the evil dichotomy, as I say in the chart. Let's look at the chart. Oh, you know what, let's look at the chart here so that I'm not opening that browser. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I fucking love this chart. Actually, I had a huge synchronicity moment with this chart. I'll give you a brief fucking rundown of it actually, because I think it's so incredible. But basically, I was on the way back to work, and I had been sort of in the car, like because I'm like delivering food to people and stuff, and so I've been in the car, and I've been just sort of like thinking about stuff, and I got back and I quickly wrote down like sort of the outlines of this chart, and when I walked in, the manager said, "You got it, Matt," and I was like, "You got it?" I think I asked her like, "Got what?" or something, and I think she said like, "I don't know," or like, "I don't know." It was kind of bizarre. Like it was almost as if when she responded to me, it was as if she was almost like acknowledging that she had said that, and like acknowledging that like it was kind of a meaningless to her to have said that. But I had just finished this chart, and so it was, she said, "You got it, Matt," and I was kind of blown away. And she's actually like, she seems like a fairly a fairly good person. And I think if you're a good person, like you're more likely perhaps to have synchronicities and kind of like essentially like I think you're more likely to work in a nice way with everything else that's going on. And so like it seemed particularly meaningful that she would have said that. And then of course like her being a manager as well, it's like, you know, a man, it's sort of like a stand-in for like a higher power symbolically. It's like I went in and the manager on site said, "You got it, Matt." And like I don't know what I like again, like, I think I'm pretty sure I asked her what she meant, and she, like, I think sh I don't know, it was, like, one of the weirder moments. It was almost as if, like, it was, like, a line segment in time, and it was, like, essentially, her response was kinda like, "Oh, yeah, that was just that line segment over there." It's, like, as if to say, like, that moment stood by itself. I don't know what the fuck it was. I mean, I'm probably I don't know what she would say about it if she even remember it. Probably not, 'cause it was, like, such a passing thing, but I remember it because it was after I wrote this or after I basically put this together. And the evil omen, I said like Don is in control. Evil omen. If you are in control, then you are winning. Now you could take that pretty much as far as you want on a relative level, but I don't think it's a good way to go. I think probably a very powerful, but ultimately an evil way if that's all you're working with. You know, so what is it again? If you are in control, then you are winning. Um, and so what does Don do? Like you know, he's getting his shit back together. He's like, you know, buttoning up his shirt sleeves and you know, putting himself back together. And he's in control. He's a man who's in control. And I'm not saying women are attracted to evil as in like because for evil's sake, but and I'm not saying they are necessarily attracted to evil, but I think there's a sense of like, you know, you can basically if you have a deep sense of like being in control, and I don't think it has to be evil, but I think like basing your life on that might err that way. And then what you look at the people on TV, it's like how much they seem to be trying to control people. It's like and they also seem like they've got their ducks in a row. They've really got a lot of control over what they're doing. And but so what's the good omen, Matt? Well, you can look up the chart on Matt Thoughts 5. I have it linked in one of my streams, but the good omen is being an honest person, period, with the period bolded, and then line break, and then noble, period. That would be the good omen. And then to finish out this whole thing, good dichotomy is truth and falsity, and then evil, not the bad, but the evil dichotomy is pain and pleasure. So the evil is the x-axis, and pain and pleasure x-axis evil, truth and falsity y-axis good. It goes up and down. But of course, like, you know, if you take the good acts, if you take the good dichotomy on the evil part of it, essentially, like it kind of makes it simple because the truth is the only sort of morally good and relevant thing. But well, you know, it's like, what about love and helping people, whatever? It's like, yeah, but I don't. In any case, I do say that that synchronistic event happened, and I think it's such an easy way to cut through a lot of bullshit. It's like, well, what do you think about Tony Robbins? It's like I think Tony Robbins has a lot of powerful information that you could really change your life with, and I think a lot of people have um, testified to the help that Tony Robbins has given them. And I mean like successful, like really successful people. And Mike Cernovich, I think, is another guy who looked into like Tony Robbins stuff. You know, Mike Cernovich, Rob Ager, Tim Ferriss, lots of fucking people. Tony Robbins is you know, he's fucking huge. And actually, if you funny thing to say, but if you haven't actually looked into his stuff, I'd recommend it just to see what it's all about. You'll probably like sort of be kind of taken in with him like pretty much immediately. Like he's sort of a really likable guy, and like he has a very sort of powerful, engaging air. And but here's the thing: he works in the pain pleasure dynamic, and he even talks about it in Awaken the Giant Within. Palace of Pleasure, Prison of Pain. You know, Bertrand Russell, the man is subject to two sovereign forces, pain and pleasure. But Brave New World, Bertrand Russell, the empowerment stuff, but the empowerment stuff without necessarily a focus on being honest and good, which is what I bring in with my system. But anyway, to go back to that, you give yourself permission to play outside of the realm of pain and pleasure. Now, I could see that. Here's the thing: like, I could see that going really a psychopathic way, but I'm not sure it really would go a psychopathic way, because if you're playing outside of the realm of pain and pleasure, then I don't think you're necessarily going to be having like ill or malicious intents. So, yeah, but basically, and I think I've heard this elsewhere too. Like, in fact, I think I heard some like a girl or maybe multiple girls to some extent on YouTube, talking about like, oh, what's attractive in a man, and it's like at least someone said like it's really attractive that a guy like kind of wouldn't get emotionally overwhelmed. Because women, as I think Tim Ferriss sort of very evocatively put it, just beautifully put it actually. I think, or not Tim Ferriss, Neil Strauss. I think Neil Strauss put it in maybe the book The Game, maybe the fucking workbook to the game or whatever. The workbook kind of clashes with the book's message too, because the book has such a beautifully powerful message about not sleeping with women, just like he learned to, that I actually felt like I had sort of exhausted my whole kind of bullshitty evil conditioning of like, I've got to sleep with as many women as possible. I read The Game, and I went in anticipating that like, oh, maybe I'll learn how to like pick up women, and I went out thinking, yeah, okay, like, I feel like I've done that now, like reading this, and it really seems empty, and I returned to a state that I was in more like 12, 13 years old, where I'd be like, what, you have a fucking little girlfriend, what are you doing, like, what, you think this is going to be like, well, what's the point, you're wasting your time. I wouldn't necessarily say that now, but I certainly would say that it could go in a bad direction with many relationships that you are not taking seriously. Hold on. Okay. So, yeah, so I think part of what's cool about Don Draper, and guys pick up on this as well, is that he's so stable, and like, everything could be going wrong, and he'd probably have some kind of like anguished expression, but like it would be like a very elegantly or elegant anguished expression. Like, for example, there's a beautiful scene in season 7, and like, just thinking about I feel a little, weepy in a Tony Robbins way, okay? Because check out I Am Not Your Guru on Netflix if they still have it. There's a part where he's straight up like weeping. He's just like sitting in his fucking like a hotel room or something, and just like kind of weeping, and like talking about how much he likes helping people. And so I don't necessarily think Tony's a bad guy. I think I've given Tony like a little too much. I've been a little harsh with him, but anyway, the scene in Mad Men, it's so fucking beautiful. This woman, whom Don hasn't seen, and this is mild spoilers for Mad Men, but I'll keep the names out of it, so it's more just situational, and it's not huge, but well, it is kind of huge, but it's huge in a more minor way. This woman whom Don hadn't seen, I think maybe since season 1 or 2, and he had known her at least in season 1, as I recall. She walks into the room. So he's there. He's evaluating these models for this Wilkinson, fur coat company commercial. And these models are walking in, and they're wearing the fur coat, and they do their little twirl or something, or at least you get the sense that they're walking in. But anyway, Pete Campbell with his like little fucking 70s, what does he have, a mustache or something? Pete Campbell looking different in the 70s, just like not Roger Ebert. Roger Sterling looks different as well. He has a mustache, I think. But Pete Campbell standing there by the door, and he says, "This is the next girl." And then I thought to say her name for a second. In walks the woman from the first season, and he hasn't seen her in years. And he like looks at her, and she looks at him with this like sort of deep, dark, and meaningful expression. And she's wearing, I don't even know if it's that good looking of a fur coat. It's probably a nice coat, but she's wearing this fur coat, and she says, "You missed your flight." And Don had, you know what? I think this was actually part 2 of season 7. This is a little more spoilery. I apologize, but to fill out the context of this quote, Don had this oh no, you know what? That might have been later. This might be sort of a foreshadowing moment, but there is a moment where, let's just say, Don sees a plane. I'll give you a fucking Mad Men episode synopsis for that. Don sees a plane. And but she says, "You missed your flight." And like Don looks just broken. Like he's John Hamm gives like a really powerful performance, as per usual. But it's one of my favorite little John Hamm kind of like wordless reactions. Another one would easily be another sort of phantom experience where Megan walks up to him, but it's like a phantom Megan. She walks up to him at a party that he doesn't know she's at in California, and he's like, "Megan, I didn't know you were here." And but he, like, the way he looks at her, um it's just like, it's such a sad relief. Like, and he's like, she interrupts him, or like, it's just after he was talking to another woman and doing his usual sort of, womanizer misogyny Don thing. And Megan's standing there, and she's his wife, and he's like, "Megan, I didn't know you were here." And she's like, "It's okay, like, it's California." Like, everyone does this. And it's like, well, yeah, that's interesting. But he looks at her with just such love. And I don't know, like, I think he looked at Betty in that way sometimes, but like, it's kind of just the sweetest sadness like you've ever seen from Don. But in The Office, it's more of like a haunted, ghostly sadness. And she says, "You missed your flight." And then, as Mad Men is wont to do, it's kind of a poetic line that sort of is left hanging, and it's almost left hanging as poetry rather than something even somebody would have said. But then she walks. I think he like doesn't say anything, or he maybe says her name, and she says, "You missed your flight." And maybe he asks, like, a shard of a question, and then she walks, and like she kind of like does her little turn around, wearing the fur coat for Wilkinson fur coats. And he's watching her, and when she stops, he says, "You're not just smooth, you're Wilkinson smooth." And it's such a trite thing to say. It's like, basically, it sounds like it's sort of an ad line that he might have come up with, and probably, a nice sounding ad, but not one of his more even deep emotional messages through his advertising. But he says it to her, and it's like the most heartbreaking thing you've ever heard. Anyway, let's keep going. So yeah, emotional trouble. There you go. I mean, I don't know. I think Jordan Peterson gets weepy sometimes. I remember in 4th grade, I think it was, we had kind of a badass 4th grade teacher. People said he was an underwear model or something. I don't know what he had going on, but he was kind of a badass. Like, he was a cool fucking dude. Like, he looked like a guy who was the captain of his fucking life. Um, and I think I remember him saying, because he used to read like Greek myths sometimes. He was a very interesting fucking dude. And I won't say his last name, but I do remember it. But I remember, yeah. By the way, his last name matched with the whole persona, but as many names do. But he said at one point, I think, like, oh, in the old Greek ages, it was actually manly to like like cry in public or something. Like, that was a manly thing to do. And I think, like, I don't know if people always pull it off. And by the way, like, I've been around the block enough to have heard, and also maybe perhaps to have seen, like, heard of, or to have seen bad responses to like, showing a certain amount of emotion. Actually, on a personal level, I don't think I have had like in a romantic way. Like I don't think I have had like bad responses, but I also don't think that I have like been. I don't think I have been weepy in front of women. Thank fucking goodness, right? But well, it's like, but you're weepy on your fucking streams. Yeah, well, whatever. That's a show. But in any case, not that it's not real, but watching Jordan Peterson do that and Tony Robbins, it almost seems like it's still sort of the same deal, and really it's just the upper echelons of guys who perhaps are doing well enough or just are confident enough that they will allow themselves to be sort of openly emotional, not in a weak way, but kind of in like a brimming over way of this is just how much emotion this is how deeply I feel, baby. This is how deeply I feel, honey. This is how much emotion I have. This is how deeply I feel, honey. Like something like that, actually, kind of where you sort of maintain your sense of like commandership, but you're also I don't know. You're also Tony Robbins. He's like, if you can like laugh, cry, and like I don't know if he says yell, but he's like, if you can laugh and cry in a day, and maybe like a couple other things, like that's a full day. So anyway, yeah, but Don, even in his emotional moments, though, and he has many emotional moments, Don has very sort of like quiet and strong emotional resonance. Okay, so sound practices. So what did I get? I got so good mind. I think I could probably get to let's say I can get to a 9 on that as well. Oh, good body. I have +9. No, good body +2. Okay, good mind. I think I could probably get a +1 on that to get to a 9 somewhat reasonably and foreseeably. Okay, now sound practices. Now this see I got an 8 and a 7 from me for those other two, but this I get a 4. 4 out of 10. Yeah, this is where I first of all, good hygiene. Again, it's like, wow, Matt, you're making yourself to sound disgusting. I'm not trying to, but I'm also trying to be open. So, good hygiene, just better. You know, I have brushed my teeth at least once a day, like most days, like probably in my life, and certainly like I've gotten back well into the habit of that. Even more twice. I think in the past like week or two, it's been maybe more often twice a day, maybe not, but twice a day would probably be good. Just making sure like I don't have any food stuck in my teeth. Even if I did brush already the morning and I was going to brush at night throughout the day, making sure I like my clothes are kind of like clean or just good looking enough. And that would fit into sound practices. Let's say sound practices, clothes, and then clean. And then what else do we have? So, oh, sound practices, money, and then make your own, support yourself. Yeah, that's a huge one. And that's a big part of why I have a 4 here. I'm gonna go up to at least a 6. +2, supporting yourself, living on your own. Yeah, I go up by 2 if I do that. So, and that would bring me to a 6 on sound practices, which I think brings me into maybe not the green zone for having a girlfriend, but probably the orange zone. Right now, I'm in the red zone, I think. But yeah, money, make your own, support, and then +2, supporting yourself, living on your own. So I already have like an easy way for that. I mean, or at least a path forward there, an idea, and that's a good thing. Other sound practices. Let's see. Less fear, less fear, and then less. See, that goes into mind, less obsessive. That goes into mind, but I think it also might be sound practices because it's sort of like, see, a lot of these can kind of mix together. But at least getting myself to the six was supporting yourself slash living on your own. And then another money thing, actually, money enough to support a woman. And that gets me to a seven. Enough to support a woman. That gets me to a seven here. And that gets me to the yellow green. If I can do that. So because that's actually pretty big. Like that means you're making enough essentially for two, and supporting a woman also essentially for me, I think that would mean supporting a child as well. So not to call the woman a child, but say like it's having enough money to not only support her but also to have it open to do that. So that'd be plus one. And then that gets me to seven. And so if I can do that, then I think I'm well in the category of being able to have a girlfriend. Can we get another one here? Plus one here? Oh, good hobbies, practices. I don't know. That might be something, or hobbies. I think habits might actually. Yeah, maybe habits was what I was thinking of. I was thinking of an H word. Yeah, habits. I think rather good habits, practices, and I actually do have some good practices already. Maybe we'll leave it at just getting to a seven, and then we can see what might get me to an eight anyway. Okay, and then focus. So I have had or have a four for sound practices. For focus with focus underlined and then a period after the underlined focus. I have a five, and because I think I am fairly focused in many ways, but am not focused in other ways. Now, the main thing of focus is determination, as in vocation, and that is the main thing. And it's not like vocation is not just like, oh, here I am, like I have this job. No, vocation is basically this is something that I'm sort of passionately interested in, and it's kind of how I'm supporting myself and supporting her. If I can have a vocation, that'll be plus three, and I mean like a vocation that works on a high level, maybe plus three with money, and will. Yeah, that's about it.